What's up, family? So I want to break this down because this is one of those stories that sound too crazy to be true, but it is. And Trump's team is now saying we'll pay illegal immigrants to leave voluntarily. You heard that right. And give them money to leave, a free flight and $1,000 check on top. And people are losing their minds over it, especially when they hear why this is happening. So, with no further ado, I just wanted to preface the conversation. Before we get into it, though, and have a conversation, I want to show you guys the clips. Check it out.
To you. So Fox News can report exclusively that DHS will announce today that they're going to start paying for the commercial flights of illegal aliens who self-deport from the U.S. And on top of that, they're going to pay them an additional $1,000 stipend once they're confirmed to have left the country. Now, DHS says doing this is going to be significantly cheaper for the American taxpayer. They tell us that right now it costs on average about $17,000 to arrest, detain, and deport someone. They say paying for self-deportations and the stipend will only cost about $4,500 per person. That's about 70% cheaper. Aliens are going to have to register to self-deport on the new CBP Home app to access that DHS financial assistance, as well as announce their intent to leave the country. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem tells Fox in part, quote, "If you are here illegally, self-deportation is the best, safest, and most cost-effective way to leave the United States to avoid arrest." In the meantime, here in the sanctuary city of Los Angeles, ICE confirms to Fox News that 3 suspects arrested in connection with the home invasion murder of a man in the Woodland Hills neighborhood last Sunday are all in the U.S. illegally.
Wow. So that's one clip, but I want to show you guys another clip because Donald Trump spoke on it.
We have millions of people that have come into this country illegally through an administration that didn't know what they were doing. They didn't have a clue. And now we find out officially they didn't because the president was incompetent, but I could have told you that before. And they've allowed millions and millions of people to pour in: murderers, drug dealers, the biggest drug dealers in the world, actually, terrorists come in, emptied prisons from many countries, not just South America, all over the world. They emptied their prisons into our beautiful USA. And to get that many people out, 21 million people we think the real number is, but let's say 3 million of them are serious criminals. 11,888 murderers, many of whom murdered more than one person. It's hard to believe we have to even talk about this when we're talking about something so beautiful, but it's something we have to talk about having to do with the country because it's very important. So they came in by the millions illegally into our country. They just flowed in through an open border policy that was insane. And what we've done is we've offered, you know the numbers, but because we're taking them out by the thousands, we're being obstructed. It's very unfair what's happening because the court system it's very unfair. We have to get them out fast. These are bad people. These are people that are killing, and they've already killed many people in this country. Illegal immigrants that came in illegally through an open border policy, which is insane. We talk about common sense. That's not common sense. And they came in from the Congo, all over Africa, all over Asia, all over South America, parts of Europe. They flowed in and just walked right into our country. We had no idea who they were. 21 million at least. That's probably a low number. You know, you hear lower numbers than that. It's not. That's a low number. But many are really serious criminals and terrorists and people from jails. They emptied out jails. You know, Venezuela, their crime is down 72% because they took all the criminals off the streets and the gangs and they dumped them into our country. So we're getting them out. It's a very difficult thing with the courts because the courts have all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they said, maybe you have to have trials. We're going to have 5 million trials. Doesn't work. You wouldn't have a country left. But hopefully the Supreme Court will save it. But what they've done is a very, very serious thing. You know, past presidents took out hundreds of thousands of people when needed. You look at Eisenhower, you look at many of them, and they took people out and they didn't go through any of this. But what we thought we'd do is a self-deport, where we're going to pay each one a certain amount of money, and we're going to get them a beautiful flight back to where they came from. And they have a period of time. And if they make it, we're going to work with them so that maybe someday, with a little work, they can come back in if they're good people, if they're the kind of people that we want in our company, industrious people that could love our country. And if they're not, they won't. But it will give them a path to becoming, to coming back into the country. If they miss that limit, they're going to be taken out of our country, and they will never get a path to come back in, and it'll be a much tougher process. And it's called self-deportation. And by doing that, you're talking about so many millions of people. By doing that, by the way, we've taken out thousands of terrorists, drug lords. What we've done is amazing. And I'm sure Tom Homan and Kristi Noem have done an incredible job. They really have done an incredible job. But it's a hard job. So we're going to have a self-deportation where they deport themselves out of our country, and we'll work with them, and we're going to try, and if we think they're good, if they have, the people we want in our country, they're going to come back into our country. We'll give them a little easier route. But if they don't work, and if we take them out after the date, then they're never coming back, and that's the least of the problems that they're going to have.
All right, family. So shout out to the Trump administration outsmarting these activist judges that are biased and actually in support of the Democratic Party and trying to halt uh, the removal of illegal immigrants, trying to say that they are entitled to due process when they're not even citizens of America. And on top of that, I always thought that the individuals that are awarded due process are citizens that are in America because they are being heard in the court system and have every right to go to trial because you're innocent until proven guilty. But if you're already guilty because you came into a country illegally, then what is the point of due process for someone that's coming into the country illegally out of disrespect to your country, not following the laws, not abiding to law and order? But shout out to the Trump administration, man. Shout out to them for that. And we'll get to Tom Homan in a minute and how he had also responded to Trump speaking on this. So here's the deal, right? Right now, deporting someone the traditional way, arrest, detention, and court process removal, costs about $17,000 per person, according to DHS, Department of Homeland Security. With this new self-deportation plan, it costs around $4,500, as you guys saw on the screen in total. That's a 70% savings for taxpayers. You're cutting the cost by more than half and avoiding all the legal and logistical mess, right? Because at the end of the day, it's costing taxpayer dollars monies. And how do judges get paid? They're promised their pay from the taxpayers because they're like a public servant that's advocating for law and order, encompassing that they are prioritizing the public safety for legal American U.S. citizens. And it's not about rewarding them. It's about cleaning up a broken system in a smart way and saving us money doing it. Common sense. But now here's where it gets political. And I mean real political. Every time the Trump administration has tried to deport people faster, guess what happens? Left-leaning judges, mostly appointed by Democrats, step in and block it. We're talking about judges who are straight up using their benches to delay deportations, stall policies, and create loopholes for people who broke the law to stay in the U.S. And why? Simple. Power. It's power. It's a power move. And more illegal immigration means more population in certain states. More population means more House seats. More House seats means more influence in Congress. And if this population eventually becomes to voters, or they become voters, this population of legal immigrants, or just affects census numbers, it benefits the Democratic Party politically. So yeah, keeping millions here illegally, it's not just about compassion, it's about locking in political control, family. And let's be real. There are millions of people trying to come here the right way. Legal visas, background checks, paying fees, taking the test, but they're getting screwed by the backlog. Why? Because the system's being clogged with fake asylum claims and illegal entries. So guess who suffers? The ones who trying to follow the law. That's not fair. So, and here's something that the mainstream media doesn't want to say. Letting illegal immigrants stay is not free. It costs taxpayers at least $9,000 per person per year in healthcare, schooling, public services, housing assistance, you name it. So if someone stays here illegally for 10 years, That's $90,000 per person out of your pocket and mine. And multiply that by a few million people, and yeah, now you see where your tax dollars are going, right? So, I mean, the Trump's idea is pretty basic. Pay less now to fix a bigger mess. But let's check out what Tom Homan had to say in regards of what Trump had to say.
I think people are finally getting the message. If you leave on your own, you can take advantage of legal programs, come back. But we have to go through the process of formally deporting you. There are mandatory bars against you for up to 20 years, sometimes forever. So, if you want to take advantage, come back as a worker, a tourist visa, a visitor's visa, a student visa, or have a U.S. citizen child if you have one, petition for you in the future. Leave yourself open to the opportunity of legal entry. Do things the right way. There's millions of people standing in line right now doing things the right way. Taking the test, doing the background investigations, paying their fees. They're sitting in the back seat. While millions of people are allowed into this country under the Biden administration that simply don't qualify for asylum. Most of them will lose that asylum claim. So while they're clogging up the whole system, in addition to those who want to come in legally, while the millions of fraudulent asylum claims under Biden administration, there are people in this world who really are escaping fear and persecution from the homeland. But they're sitting in the back seat too because millions of people cheated the system, coming across the border and releasing the United States that caused a significant backlog in immigration court. And that wasn't by accident, it's by design. Let's just overwhelm the system so it takes 5, 7, 9 years to go through the whole process if they take advantage of the appeals process. They know exactly what they're doing. That's why they weren't in ICE detention. Because in ICE detention, they get a hearing within 35 days. But if we release millions of the country, overwhelm the system so they don't get a hearing in 5, 7, 9 years, then maybe there's a Democrat administration in power. Now we can have an amnesty. They know exactly what they're doing. They're playing the long game. But we're going to beat them at it. We're going to ramp up interior enforcement operations and removals. We're going to force the law. We're not going to ignore the law like the prior administration did.
And that's very disrespectful to taxpaying citizens and American citizens and legal American citizens. I want to emphasize that because it's taxpayers' money and you're supposed to be the servant, especially when it comes to the arena of being a judge. You are supposed to be prioritizing the public safety and not jeopardizing the public safety of American citizens. It's a slap in the face, man. Why they get paid with your taxpayer dollars and can be considered a servant that's supposed to be serving the people the right way. As you heard Tom Homan say, the right way. So look, why does this plan actually work? So Trump's idea, like I said, is pretty basic. Pay less now to fix a bigger mess. Let people voluntarily walk out the door. If they do it right, maybe they can come back someday on a legal visa. If they don't, they get banned. No coming back. Simple. So look, we either want a country with laws or we don't. And if deporting people the hard way costs us a fortune and barely works because judges keep blocking it, why not try something that saves money and actually moves the needle? We can't keep paying for people who jump the line while illegal immigrants, people who love this country and respect the law, get pushed to the back. Self deportation isn't soft, it's smart, and it might be the only tool left that hasn't been gutted by activist judges. So now I want to hear from you guys. Do you think this is a smart move? Should we be offering people money to leave, or is that giving up too easy? And what do you think about these judges blocking every attempt to enforce immigration laws? Is this about compassion or about keeping political power? Now, you guys heard my perspective and my opinion on it, but drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's have a real conversation. And if this gave you something to think about, hit that like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Spread that peace, love, and positivity, family. Let the love supersede the hate. And as always, I enjoy having a conversation with you guys, family. On that note, family, peace.